Well-organized, systematic studies of apparitions started after the Society of Psychical Research was founded in England in 1882. The SPR was soon joined in this quest by the American Society for Psychical Research and by smaller research groups and individual investigators in continental Europe. Scholarly journals were established to publish ongoing research as well as theoretical speculation and fierce debates. The basic idea of these efforts was to apply scientific method to data collection, evaluation, and interpretation of psychic phenomenon, an area in which 19th century materialistic science had ignored up to that time. Advertised appeals brought an abundance of material, much of it reported in the proceedings in journals, leading in 1886 to the publication of the voluminous Phantasms of the Living. This was followed by a landmark study called the Census of Hallucinations, whose findings were published in the Proceedings in 1894. It was a pioneering survey. 17,000 respondents were contacted. Reports were analyzed and published in several major works. The main analysis done by Edmund Gurney was published in 2 volumes called Phantasms of the Living. The other important documents were written by Gurney in 1886 and Myers in 1903. Several other collections appeared later, such as those by Bennett in 1939, Green and McCreary in 1975, Jacobson in 1973, and Jaffe in 1979. With the benefit of hindsight, several conditions pertaining in the late 19th century can be seen to have been particularly conducive to research into ghostly phenomenon. The simple fact is they discovered that 70 to 90% of all the reported cases of ghostly phenomenon are actually explainable. Additionally, they used information they uncovered to create a classification system for the reported accounts of hauntings. The classifications they created consist of only 2 types, low-grade and high-grade. Low-grade observations are often explainable. Apparitions are most reported by fantasy-prone persons, the 4% of the population who are good hypnotic subjects, have vivid imagery skills, and who report a wide range of other psychic and paranormal experiences. Low-grade cases and observations are often explainable by one or more of the following factors. Misperceptions. The report has little merit being based on distortions of perception because of poor light, short duration, pareidolia, and on emotional exaggerations. Hoaxes can be common, especially for ghost photographs. Misperception is misunderstanding something seen, heard, felt, or otherwise sensed. Misperception alone accounts for most of the reported paranormal experiences. The second is imagery or hallucination. The witness, often psychic or a suggestible person, unconsciously generates an apparition as a result to suppress needs or beliefs. The source of the impressions would be the conscious or unconscious mind of the witness, and more speculatively, archetypical images from the collective unconscious. An old variant of this model is Gurney, 1886, and Tyrrell, 1953, now called Super ESP hypothesis. In this hypothesis, the apparition is at least partially composed of telepathic data that is then projected out from the mind of the witness. Louisa Rhine found the input of data from outside was unnecessary in all but 8,000 reports. Apparitions were hallucinations created totally within the mind. These types of hallucinations they began calling falsital hallucinations. The most typical examples of falsital hallucinations are moving shadows, often called shadow people, and fleeting images, typically lasting less than 2 seconds. It is important to understand that the witness did actually have an experience and will strongly believe so. However, the experience is explainable. A measurement of the witness's bias or belief towards the paranormal can often correlate directly to the potential of experiencing a falsital hallucination. The hallucination may also trigger the fight or flight response in the witness. The third thing is myth-building and hoaxes. The account of the phenomenon is comprised of second and third-hand accounts. If there are no direct witnesses to the reported paranormal activity, myth-building could be present. Myth-building, simply put, is an elaboration of the elements in a story. Now, these elements may have some degree of truth, while others may be completely false. It is the essential building blocks that is used in the construction of myths and urban legends. This designation suggests nothing about the story's veracity, but merely that it is in circulation, exhibits variation over time, and carries some significance that motivates the community in preserving and propagating it. Essentially, it is nothing more than a ghost story. High-grade observations include veridical information that is revealed to the witness or witnesses about the apparition's appearance. Details such as the specific clothing, facial and body features, injuries, movements, such as having a distinct walk or limp, and smells, can often be confirmed and compared to the reports if other witnesses are present, and it is absolutely vital that this is done. Other elements which can make an observation a high-grade observation include: they reappear in the same place over time to different witnesses. The phenomenon repeats behavior. The apparition is seen in a specific location, either the place of death or a place of a great tragedy, and if veridical information from that sighting is later verified as factual about the deceased, such as matching their description of an old photograph, being told who killed them, the location of valuables, or specific phrases known to be uttered which matches their personality that is known only to living friends and relatives. Observations where multiple people, either together or independently, describe the exact same details of the phenomenon that they have witnessed. This is especially important if they had no prior knowledge of the location or its history. If the apparition is known to the witness at the time of the sighting but was identified by other means that identifies it as a factual person. This may have been obtained through historical research or when the witness or witnesses speaks to other people like friends or relatives or sees them in a photograph. The apparition either directly tells them or shows them something important, such as a family secret, a lost will, how they died, who killed them, etc., that is later independently verified to be true. The duration of the sighting is over 3 seconds, and the witness can make out enough visual details to provide a good description. These types of veridical encounters highly suggest that when you examine them, many contain strong veridical elements aside from merely seeing a ghost. However, they are rare, and the burden of proof is harder to obtain, as these are subjective experiences. Grading cases and observations and the understanding of the results of prior research is a vital part of the examination of paranormal claims, as it dictates the direction and methodology an investigator should use to examine the available testimony and evidence to reach a conclusion. Low-grade cases, on the other hand, are often explainable by properly identifying the reported phenomenon as natural or man-made in origin. High-grade cases are much more difficult to tackle and will present more of a challenge. How to use the Gurney-Myers standard. The basis of the standard is actually quite simple. We do not know what ghosts are, or even if they exist. If you do not know what something is, then how are you supposed to look for it? The standard takes an approach of eliminating the known factors that can be identified and assessed in validity. While it cannot be used to prove a haunting, it can be used to eliminate the common factors that create legends and myths. The standard analyzes 3 key elements that have been identified through the previous inquiries by SPR. The first of these is the witness testimony. The most important aspect of any investigation is to obtain, as far as possible, a detailed and accurate picture of the events. This usually means conducting in-depth interviews with the people directly involved and possibly with other relevant witnesses. The standard requires that the testimony of the witnesses be examined for veridical elements. Misperception, natural explanations, and a degree of bias must be considered as alternative explanations. The second item to be analyzed is the event occurrences. There are 2 types of spectral phenomenon that was identified in previous studies: repeating and psychical. Repeating manifestations are those in which certain behaviors repeat over time. There is often no apparent pattern, only that the same instances occur over and over again. Psychical manifestations are those that manifest themselves on or near certain times of the year. The final element to be examined is historical research. The purpose of historical research is to check any associated facts to determine their validity and to assist in determining the degree of myth building. Often myths are identified just by checking out the history of a location. The standard is simply a tool that can be used to help identify the explainable variables that are often associated with paranormal cases. Often it will discredit such cases. However, if the information that is collected holds up to the standard, it is not a definitive indication of the validity of paranormal activity. The case may not be solvable.